Now turn to Section 2. Section 2. Charles is in London now. He goes to listen to a lecture about an introduction to Britain. Questions 11 to 22 are based on the lecture. Look at questions 11 to 22. Now listen to the lecture and answer questions 11 to 22. Britain is an island which is about the same size as New Zealand or Uganda. Australia is 60 times its size. It's just under 1,000 kilometres from north to south and about 500 kilometres across at its widest part. The climate is temperate and changeable. Its population is about 58 million. Consisting of 48.5 million in England, 5 million in Scotland, 3 million in Wales, and 1.5 million in Northern Ireland. The majority of British people work in service industries such as trade, catering, tourism, TV, plus a wide variety of business services. About 20% work in manufacturing and 5% in construction. Then approximately 1.5% supply energy and water to other British citizens, while another 1.5% are involved in agriculture, forestry and fishing. Do-it-yourself, or DIY as it's known, is a popular leisure activity in Britain. Many people spend their weekends carrying out various improvements to their homes, such as replacing the kitchen cupboards or decorating a bedroom. Other people lovingly tend their gardens, growing shrubs, flowers and sometimes vegetables. Half of British households keep a pet of some kind, and a quarter of the population is involved in some sort of voluntary work, helping others in their spare time without being paid for what they do. One example of volunteer work is Meals on Wheels. Volunteer drivers collect prepared lunches from a centre and deliver them in their own cars to elderly people who are unable to leave their homes easily to buy food for themselves. The recipients of Meals on Wheels pay a small charge for their service to cover the cost of the food. Britain is an individualistic society, and people are often tolerant of other people's eccentricities. One can find those with special talents or unusual hobbies interesting, amusing, and even endearing. Common topics of conversation are weather, sports, current events, and what is planned for the next weekend, or what was done the previous one. British people have become more adventurous in their eating habits since they became a multiracial society. There are Chinese, Indian, Italian, French and Spanish restaurants in many towns and certainly in every city. Food served in pubs has also become more varied in recent years. However, the traditional fish and chips are still popular and are widely available from fish and chip shops all over the place. The British diet typically includes some sweet things such as cakes, biscuits and desserts. Many people struggle with the weight problem as a result. Newspapers in Britain can be divided into two main types, popular and serious. Popular papers are physically smaller and are more sensational in their reporting of the news. They are called tabloid papers. Serious newspapers are larger and attempt to report current events in a more analytical way. They are called broadsheet papers. Each newspaper has its own political affliction or bias. The Times, for example, generally supports the Conservative Party, whereas the Daily Mirror supports the Labour Party. Compulsory education begins at the age of 5 and finishes at the age of 16, with some students continuing their schooling until the age of 18, when they enter some form of higher education. The exams taken at age 16 are called GCSE, short for General Certificate of Secondary Education. Students often take 8 or 9 subjects at the GCSE level. The exams taken by 18-year-olds are the A level, short for Advanced Level. In general, only 3 subjects are studied at A level. Divorce is becoming increasingly common in Britain nowadays, and many non-married people cohabit or live together without getting married. There is a preference for smaller families, with the average household size being about 2 to 4 people. Approximately 70% of people own or are buying their own homes. Most people live in houses rather than flats. About 4 out of 5 choose to live in houses. The stereotype of a British person is someone who is reserved, polite, private, and perhaps rather cold and exclusive. This is certainly not true of all British people. In fact, many people in Britain are warm and humorous. They often laugh at themselves and try to see the funny side of life. British humour is frequently of a sarcastic kind. In sarcastic humour, mocking or ironic language is used to convey scorn or insult, but it should not be taken literally or seriously. The British person is simply pulling your leg. That is the end of section 2. You will now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3. Section 3. You will hear a job interview. As you listen to the interview after questions 23 to 30, first look at questions 23 to 30. Now listen to the interview and answer questions 23 to 30.
Good morning, my name is Susan Smith. I'm a personal manager. You're Tom Swain from England, is that right?
Yes, I saw the advertisement about the job in yesterday's newspaper.
Well, Mr. Swain, I'd like to talk about your personality. You know, the right personality is essential for the job, and we'll give you some psychological tests later on. Perhaps you would like to tell me a little about yourself.
Certainly. What would you like to know?
Well, you know, human relations are going to be particularly important in this job. Tell me, do you get on well with people?
Very well indeed. I'm never short of friends.
Good. Sometimes, though, you may have to be very tough. For example, you may have to sack someone. Would you say that you're capable of being really hard?
If something has to be done, I'll do it.
You studied management sciences in the UK, didn't you? By the way, what type of degree did you get?
A first class.
And then you did a master's degree in America. Tell me, what was the title of your thesis?
My thesis? Organizational Factors in Successful Exporting.
Tell me, how many foreign languages do you speak?
3. French, Spanish, and some Arabic. Oh, I've started learning Japanese.
You'll have to work abroad a lot, and that can be very frustrating sometimes. Would you say that you're a patient person?
Yes, and I would say that I'm a very patient person. I've never seen the point in losing one's temper.
It's very good. Can you keep a secret? A lot of the information you'll be dealing with will be classified.
It will be quite safe with me.
And then you'll have a lot of reports to write. Often under pressure. Do you think you can write for a deadline?
I usually get things finished on time. The pressure often helps.
Oh, and have you got a good memory? That's essential.
I'm very good at remembering names and conversations, and I'm fairly good at facts and figures, but I can't remember places.
Do you...
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers. This is the end of the listening test.